Okay, this short video is on the proper way of writing your hypothesis or your hypotheses in your outlines. You'll notice how the outline works through step by step by step to the point where it reaches near the end where you actually have to write your hypotheses out. So this is to help you actually write a good hypothesis. Let me read this hypothesis here about the defunding of Planned Parenthood. The hypothesis states that removal of government funding from Planned Parenthood will greatly limit the access to reproductive services by lower income families. That's a good hypothesis. It states what you think would be, what the researcher thinks will be the outcome if this activity takes place. X will lead to Y. That's what your hypothesis is. So you can write that down, H1, and in this case, defunding Planned Parenthood will lead to a decrease in reproductive health access for lower income families. How do you state the null hypothesis? Really, all you have to do is you just have to restate that, but instead of the causality arrow, just say something to the effect of no impact. So decreasing funding for Planned Parenthood will have no impact on access to reproductive health for low-income families. So that's how you state the null hypothesis, and that's HO. Okay, so all you have to do is go through this in exercise and think in terms of the causality arrow here, and then just replace that causality arrow in a fully formed sentence and state no impact for exactly the same thing. So the independent variable has no impact on the dependent variable. And that's how you state your null hypothesis. So let's take a look at how that goes for a couple of these exercises that some of you have gone into. Legalizing marijuana. The hypothesis, one hypothesis, H1, is that if you legalize marijuana, it will improve health, a sense of health. So people who are not having very much luck with other traditional medicinal pharmaceuticals will have an overall improved sense of health because of medical marijuana. That's a hypothesis. How do you state the null hypothesis of that? So H0 would be legalizing marijuana will have no impact on health or sense of health. Okay, that's H1 and its null hypothesis. Now H2, same research paper, legalizing marijuana will lead to decreased criminal activity. Null hypothesis of H2 is that legalizing marijuana will have no impact on criminal activity. And this research paper actually has a third hypothesis, is that the impact, H3, legalizing marijuana will decrease profits for pharmaceuticals. And the null hypothesis on this, of course, is that legalizing marijuana will have no impact on profits. Okay, so that should help you understand that. Let me do one more example. I've got a few more minutes here. Work-life balance. Is it possible to create a balance between work and life, and if so, how can we benefit from that balance? So there's the idea of getting this hypothesis, and the whole outline is designed so that as you work through the outline, like I showed on the last video, you've actually identified your research problem, then you've identified your dependent variable, which is, in this case here, the dependent variable is more enjoyment out of life. So what do you do in the short term? now so that you in the long term get more out of life, get more enjoyment out of life. So the hypothesis theoretically then is that if you work harder now in your 40s, we'll say in your 40s, 20s, 30s, and 40s, will lead to more play time in your 50s, 60s. I'm not sure if that's exactly the research problem as it's identified, but that's kind of what I read into that. So this is my sense of what the hypothesis would be. So the H0 null hypothesis is that if you work hard in your 40s, there will be no impact on how much you play in your 50s. Okay? So that's a simple way to look at this, is to say, okay, this is my hypothesis. If you do this, it will result in this. And all you have to do to restate that as a null hypothesis is if you do this, there will be no impact on the same thing. So hopefully that'll help you write a better hypothesis.